Hey everybody, it's Billy Dean here saying blast off to the music universe.
This episode of the Music Universe podcast is sponsored by Aroma Retail.
Both Buddy and I own and love their machines. I use their travel-sized diffuser and it fills my whole apartment.
And Matt, their home unit can get your whole house smelling refreshed, and if you have a lot of pets like I do, you definitely need it. With some of your favorite fragrances from resort destinations around the world, there is definitely something for everyone.
Yeah, they have 90 fragrances available for diffusing, as room and linen sprays. I know you might like that because the dogs and cats jump on the beds. There's candles and even wax melters. Those are fun.
Head over to aromaretail.com and use code MUSICUNI10 for 10% off your order.
And that is 10 on that 10. MUSICUNI10. Scent your space with Aroma Retail. No, Matt, it's a 90s country throwback with Billy Dean. Super cool to finally chat with him. Really excited about that. Spent a good 20 plus minutes with him, and his new album, The Rest of Mine, is coming out in July. It's July 22nd to be exact, and it's his first country album in a decade. So it's a really cool vibey thing. I've heard the first two songs at the time of the recording they were released. And, the new single actually is the title track, and it's with a gentleman you might remember, Paul Overstreet. Mm-hmm. And then the other song is the kickoff song, Saltwater Cowboy. Very, very 90s country there. And we get into quite a bit there. And I'm excited that Billy joined me.
I can't wait to listen to it. He was such a fun person to talk to. Very tall. Very tall. I don't know if you'll be able to tell this on the interview, but the man is. When I go places, usually here in DC, or if it's a road trip, I have Isaac with me, and Isaac is about 6'3", and he towered over Isaac. Okay, he's
wow,
huge man. So, but also the nicest person. When I talked to him in Huntsville, it was about, of course, Lee Greenwood, and I told him about the Jim Stafford Theater. Hadn't won the marquee just yet. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, just search Jim Stafford on themusicuniverse.com. You'll find it. But told him what our plans were. He had performed at the Jim Stafford Theater in Branson. So it was really cool. When I got to talk to him, I'm glad you got to talk to him for a little bit longer. We'll tell you why I couldn't join on this interview after the interview. So stay tuned.
Yeah. But, the 30th anniversary of his number one, Somewhere in My Broken Heart, is featured on here as a re-recording with the symphony orchestra. So we get into that a little bit. We just talk about everything. And of course, the tour he's on with Shenandoah and Wade Hayes, called the Country Comeback Tour. They just performed at CMA Fest. We'll get to that in a bit too, but you get to hear all about that and more coming up right now with Billy Dean on the Music Universe podcast. Billy Dean, welcome to the Music Universe podcast. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. Excited to have a fun summer with new music, new touring going on. So it's great to be back out there playing for real people again.
Yeah, I know the pandemic made everybody just kind of crave live music, and not in the virtual way, but actually the live way.
Really, it really did. You never know what you miss until it's gone, right? That's the old saying.
Yeah, and I had the pleasure of having a couple of the songs off the new album, The Rest Is Mine, sent to me early, and oh my gosh, such wonderful throwback 90s music, even a Jimmy Buffett vibe going on the title track. Tell us about the new music.
I was doing a show down in Key West, Florida. I'm originally from Florida, and I just recently moved back. Well, I say recently, 4 years ago, I moved back to Florida, and I had been doing a lot of private work, concerts in the state of Florida. And I was doing a show with Paul Overstreet, who is a guy I was a fan of. He's a Hall of Fame songwriter, recording artist, and I had driven down to the Keys for this particular show, and I just noticed so many people, in their 50s, I guess, enjoying their life and looked like they were empty nesters. So I kind of related to that. And I told Paul on my drive back, I said, man, I want to write a song for the empty nester, the folks that feel, like they're either retired or they're on the cusp of retiring, and they're just taking back some of their life, taking back some of their time and money. And so he just sent me back a whole verse and chorus. The rest, I know he sent me a chorus and a verse. And so anyway, I pulled over immediately and started working on a second verse. And we ended up finishing the song on my drive back up to Nashville, because I was going up to a studio to do some recording. And I said, just meet me at the studio, man. We'll just go ahead and throw it down, and record it. So we wrote it just, while not even face to face, but, Paul's got this sense of humor that I wanted. I wanted to do an album that was just coming out of COVID, fun, light, easy, tropical, and just kind of captured the mood of all of us coming out of this quarantine thing.
Yeah, I was going to describe it as fun, because just Saltwater Cowboy, I listened to that and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's such a 90s throwback. I mean, I love it. I love it. Tell us about the inspiration behind that song. And those are the only two I've heard so far.
Yeah, the Saltwater, there's several songs people had, they're written called Saltwater Cowboy. Kenny Chesney, I think, had one on his album, and Paul had written songs about Saltwater Cowboy. But I literally had a farm up in Tennessee, and and I had some cows, and I had some horses, and was doing a little ranching up there as a hobby. And I thought, man, as much as I love this is fun, I'm really a Gulf Coast guy. I'm a cowboy, but I'm more of a saltwater cowboy, and so literally it's kind of like my story. I traded my horse and my saddle for a boat and paddle, man, and I moved back to North Florida and having a lot of fun here in the Apalachicola area, which is where I live now.
Yeah, it's just crazy with things life brings you. You kind of have this, and you're like, I want to go back to my roots. So that's kind of what you've done there.
Yeah, the 90s country music, you usually had a guitar riff of some kind, which in Saltwater Cowboy started with that little, guitar riff. Yeah. And that's another thing I wanted to do was I wanted to, play more on my albums and have everything kind of start acoustically on the acoustic guitar, because I love to play. And so it has a little bit of a story, a little bit of sense of humor, and the music is kind of a throwback to the 90s, which has really been becoming popular again, that I'm finding.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very much so. I mean, I credit a lot of that for Luke Combs keeping that kind of vibe going.
Yes, you're right. You're right. These guys like him, Morgan Wallen, these guys they're fans of, they kind of preserve the past and they promote the future, which I really like, which is when I got to Nashville, I was the same way. I was 22 years old, big fan of Haggard and Waylon and, Dolly and, that generation. And so I'd done my homework. And then you kind of take that style in your own music that you listen to at that age, and you kind of create a little jumbo stew of your own style,
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got a bonus track on this. It's a re-recording of Somewhere in My Broken Heart. Tell us what inspired that, because it's the 30th anniversary.
Yep. In 1992, Somewhere in My Broken Heart, a song I wrote with a now Hall of Fame songwriter, Richard Lee, became my first #1 song, and it won the Academy of Country Music Song of the Year. Got nominated for a Grammy. It's just a song that changed my whole life in the course of my career. And somebody just asked me, he said, do you have any anniversaries coming up? And I thought, no. Or wedding anniversaries gone? No, like in the music business. It's like, I don't know. 1992, we won a bunch of awards, and it's, well, this is 30 years since 1992. And I realized, wow, that was a very important year for me and for Somewhere in My Broken Heart. So we did a re-recording of it, and we used strings and some orchestra. We brought some orchestra people in to record it because I always thought it was a very dramatic melody and could be enhanced by strings. In fact, I always thought it should have been a female song. In fact, Lauren Dusky on the voice with Blake Shelton had her do it on the voice. And when I heard that, I went, wow, that's where I really envisioned that song. But 30-year anniversary, we thought we'd give the consumer a little something extra they couldn't find anywhere else. So we added it on as a little bonus track, even though the 10 songs are, more like, tropical. We thought this would be a good little bonus.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing that too. I mean, the whole album, but that one, my all-time favorite. Well, I have too many Billy Dean songs, but Billy the Kid. I just remember getting into country music around '91. An aunt, I have an aunt that got me into that, and she said that you are her country hunk, and Rick Springfield is her rock hunk. And she took me twice to see you. Once you opened for Reba in 96, and then I saw you from St. Louis. I saw you at the Town and Country Fair, but it got rained out middle of your set, and I was so disappointed because I didn't get to see you perform the whole set. But your keyboard player at the time, Doc, signed a CD.
Yeah. Oh, Doc. Yep. I'm actually reunited with my drummer and guitar player on a few shows. Going back, and it's really great to hear these songs from the 90s played with a band and played like a record. That's been, I've done a few shows with a little package that we're working on called the Comeback Tour, the Country Comeback Tour, 90 minutes of 90s country with Shenandoah and Wade Hayes. And the band Shenandoah plays my hits for me, with me while I'm out on stage. And it really is cool. The old music holds up even to today. I never get tired. There's none of the songs I get tired of singing, really.
No, I mean, a lot of those songs, I mean, they just sound as fresh today as they did when they were released, and can't believe they're 30, some of them more than 30 years old. And tell us about the tour. How did that come about with Wade and Shenandoah? Because that's a great lineup there with you guys.
It really is. We actually interact. We play some songs together. My agent actually, we have a wonderful agency, Wasserman Agency, and they represent people like Old Dominion, who are good buddies of mine, Winona Judd, Shenandoah, and so they were really interested in putting together, this 90s package, because the Roots and Boots tour was out there, Sammy Kershaw and Aaron Tippin, some of those guys, Colin Ray. And it just seems like it's better to team up. It's cost effective. I think the consumer gets, bonus. They get a little, you get Shenandoah's biggest hits, my biggest hits, Wade's biggest hits. You get a little interaction together, and the job there is to make everybody feel like you did when you heard those songs back in the 90s.
Oh yeah, and not a better lineup right there. I mean, that's awesome. Are you guys expanding that for the summer?
We are. We just started. The concept was put together about February of this year, and we started the marketing and packaging, rehearsals and everything. And so I think we'll do about 10 shows this year, but we're looking at 2023 having a full calendar year, 60 plus shows going in the next couple of years. And it's really, it's really fun to see a young group of people, the 25 to 35-year-olds come into the show. Their moms and dads, played the 90s music, and I'm shocked, really. I'm to see a younger generation, really becoming a fan of that music. And, everybody has their opinions on why that is. But, we try to be authentic as much as possible with real musicians, real stories and that sort of thing. But regardless of the reason why, I'm glad it's happening, and it makes it a lot of fun to play to that generation.
Oh yeah, and 60 dates. I mean, that's a big tour these days. I know in the 90s, like 140 dates was big, but 60.
It's pretty much every weekend, no doubt.
Yeah, and is that going to be your biggest tour in a while?
It really will, because you know, I'm a big fan of the troubadour, the solo singer-songwriter, you know, the James Taylors of the world, you know, the Dan Fogelbergs. These guys were my generation of kind of singer-songwriters. And I've been doing a lot of that, small, intimate music experiences, both private and public, but more small venues, 300 to 500 seat intimate settings. And but this tour is going into the bread and butter of country music. You know, I guess the country music demographic is casinos and big state fairs and those big festivals. And it's great to be able to go in with a production, a 3-act production that will accommodate those types of venues and make it for a really fun and exciting show. The other stuff that I've been doing for several years has been more intimate, more listening, singer-songwriter kind of, you know, up close storytelling. But this is really kind of reliving the party that we all went through in the 90s, you know.
Oh yeah, and it was one big party.
It was one. I lived to tell about it.
Oh, that's awesome. And a question I've always had for artists that do not live in Nashville or no longer live in Nashville: what's it like working there but not living there?
Well, you know, that's kind of the reason I moved back to Florida. You know, you find yourself living in Nashville. You feel like once you get to the front of the line, because it is a big, long line of talent that's waiting to get to the top of the list. When you get to the top of the list and you get your record deal and you have some success, you're really afraid to you know, out of sight, out of mind. You're afraid to give up that spot. Then suddenly you realize that, especially now, you can make really good records right at home. In fact, I'm sitting in front of my Pro Tools screen right now. And a lot of the reason that we lived in Nashville was the incredible musicians, the incredible facilities and the engineers, the talent, and the executive talent, record labels. But now it's, you know, with social media empowering individuals and independent artists, having the technology to make really good quality music in a room at your house, you don't really find the need to live in Nashville that much. Now it's a great collaboration town, and it still houses the best songwriters, I think, in the world. And there's something to be said for being in Nashville and running into those guys and networking and learning their trade. You know, why is Paul Street a Hall of Fame songwriter? That was what made me want to write with him, kind of set me on this path to work with some of these Hall of Fame guys to find out what their mojo is.
Yeah, I lived there for 2 years, about a decade ago, and I want to go. I'm in Bakersfield, California right now, and I want to move back. It's just such more of a homely feel, and it's competitive, but everybody is there to help each other if you let them. Like, as long as everybody has a good head on their shoulders and not arrogant, everybody's like, oh, I know this guy, and you just make your way to the top that way a lot of times.
It's very true. It's you know, people do network and help each other. My class, I always call my freshman class, when I was singing demos and writing songs, hadn't had a record deal yet, but everybody that was trying and doing the same thing I was doing, and was, you know, Alan Jackson, Trisha Yearwood, you know, Laurie White, T. Graham Brown, you know, Joe Diffie, Tracy Lawrence. Those guys were kind of, you know, trying to make it. We were all trying to make it at the same time. And, you know, once one guy gets a record deal and gets a tour, he goes, man, I want to get my old buddy Billy on the tour, you know, or same thing. Hey, I want to get my buddy Joe Diffie. I want us to do a few shows together. So it's a really tight knit club, to be in, and in that club you learn. It's really a trade that's handed down. It's not really something you can learn, in a college or whatever. It's kind of like street smarts. You learn what makes what the what people want to hear when you listen to what they're playing in the clubs, what people are reacting to in Nashville with the best musicians. And it gives you a chance to kind of, well, this is where it's going. This is where it's headed. We better start writing like that.
Yeah. You said it. I mean, just you named a bunch of everybody's a legend now from that time period. I mean, it's hard to imagine that, when all that music was coming out, and it's just the same type of sound, but everybody had their unique approach to it. And would you say now that it's likely harder to make it than it was then, considering the landscape?
I think it probably is. It takes first of all, the independent artist has a way to market themselves now with the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But what you find, hey, wait a minute, I didn't get in this business to be a marketing genius. I'm a musician and a songwriter. You can't, it's hard to do it all. You got to write the music, record the music, then you got to market it and do it all on your own. When are you going to tour, and all of that? I think it's harder. I think though, if you learn to be really, savvy with the social media, and you come up with the right 3 minutes that reacts, and the next thing you know, you got millions of followers and you can sell 1,000 tickets. You also find, if you can reach that, you also find you get to keep a big line share of the money, whereas a large line share of that money originally would have been going to the machine that helped you become, successful.
Right.
So you can be very successful. It takes a lot longer for the money to come around. You can make it on your own and keep the lion's share of the money, but it could take a lot longer for that to happen.
Yeah, I think TikTok has just blown up for this huge signee thing, because when Matt was at CMA Fest, he interviewed a guy named Thomas Mack, and he asked him if he signed. He goes, "No, I own all of my stuff. I want to be able to have that control and when to put something out." And you hear every once in a while, that artists and labels sometimes get into it with each other over what to put out, but ultimately the fans decide.
Yeah, there's definitely a learning curve. I think most artists, I think it's very important for them to learn what radio needs and what they're up against, and what their challenges are to keep their market and their market share, and to keep the people happy in their community that are listening to country music. What do their fans want,
Mm-hmm.
And you get a lot of times you can have a headstrong artist that goes, "Hey, I'm doing my thing. This is what I do. And if it happens, great. If it doesn't, great." But there is an art form in itself to learning how to write and sing commercial music that the majority of people, a vast majority, would like and would support you. And you get a lot of that information back from radio. Like radio will say, "Hey man, we're not playing any more songs with a dirt road and a truck in it," And so wow, that's a good tip. Well, I've got 5 over here. I thought that's what everybody wanted, but we're not going to use those. So, or like, "Hey man, there's too many ballads." Where radio stations, they have to have a good balance of airplay. So it's good. To me, it's important for you to learn that side of the business. And it is not to say that you have to aim for it. You still do your own thing, but maybe you don't write 2 verses and then a chorus. Maybe it's 1 verse and a chorus. Maybe you got to get people's attention quick when they're listening to the radio, and that's an art form in itself. I love social media because you can do more long form with video and storytelling and YouTube. But let's face it, man, people's attention span is short. It's like we say in Nashville, don't bore us, get to the chorus.
That's a great line. And maybe appear in a song at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
Now the rest of mine is the first single, Entitled Track, with Paul Overstreet, like we discussed. Video just came out and it's being shipped to country radio, correct?
The video it actually debuted today on CMT.com. You can go to CMT.com, and we're a nice little interview there, and the video, which we shot down in Key West. And it's a fun video, and it's kind of, the little sense of humor, fun, typical Paul Overstreet sense of humor. But it really does. It's, all these parents that have, they finally get to where they're ready. They're empty nesters. They're ready they bought the RV. They're ready to hit the road. And then they got a kid that goes off the swerves off the road a little bit, as far as the straight and narrow. And they have to take them back inside, or they have to raise a grandkid, or, it's like, God, I thought we were done with all of that,
Right.
And you finally get to that place where, look, this is our life. You kids, time for y'all to grow up, do your thing, because mom and dad or the rest of it's mine. The rest of it's ours, go find yours. And I just think there's a lot of people out there that, can identify. I know I'm proud of my kids so far. Knock on wood, they have not had to boomerang back, which is great. They may, and I'll be right there when they do. But in the meantime, the rest of it's mine.
Absolutely. Great country music. Great songs there. Before we let you go, anything else you would like to share with us that maybe we didn't touch on?
Well, no, I guess not. The album, July, I think it drops July 22nd. You can pre-order it right now on Apple Music or Amazon.com. You can pre-order it. You can go to BillyDean.com and do the same. And I just appreciate, man, I appreciate you being a fan of the 90s. And, where would we be without you guys, man? I mean, nobody would know we were even out there. So thank you for the coverage. Join us on Spotify. Follow us on Spotify. We'd love to have that as well. Can't wait for this to hit the airwaves. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Pleasure's all mine. And I'm definitely going to try to catch one of those shows if depending on where I am. If I'm still here, hopefully you guys will hit the West Coast. If not,
maybe come to the Crystal Palace. You're out in Buck Owens country, aren't you?
Yeah. I used to they haven't had shows there in a while that I've attended, but I've seen like Carly Pierce there, Tracy Bird. I've seen several shows there. It's great. Have you played there before?
I have, just once or twice, I think. I haven't played in a long time. And we sold the majority of our music was sold on the West Coast, California. I was a big Haggard fan. I was probably influenced more by the West Coast than anything else. So I miss playing out there. I do a lot of stuff up in Napa, up in the wine country, but need to get down to the mainstream there, part of California where the country music fans are. Need to get there.
Oh yeah, they're big around here. I mean, they just had Chris Jansen, and I believe like Cole Swindell. Some people play like this park at the fairgrounds, and it just, from my understanding, it was packed.
That's good news, man. That's real good news. So maybe we'll make it out there and see you in person.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Love to meet you and say hi and finally shake hands with people again,
Absolutely. It'd be all fine with me.
Awesome. Well, Billy, appreciate your time.
So I happened to catch the tail end of the Country Comeback Tour at CMA Fest. Mm-hmm. It was so bright out, and I had lost my sunglasses for a little bit, that I knew it was the gentleman from Shenandoah, but I couldn't make out that Wade and Billy were actually backing him up. And I assumed they had traded off lead vocals to do their own songs during their half-hour set. I was coming over to see Jamie O'Neill, so that's really cool. I couldn't join you for this interview because I was doing another 90s country thing, which you can find on our Facebook or in our live CMA Fest article. We put it there. CMA has, excuse me, the Grand Ole Opry has Opry Loves the 90s, which is an exhibit in their little museum there over at the Acuff House, which is right next to the gift shop, right in front of the gift shop at the Grand Ole Opry. And I'd never been there before, and it was really, really cool. We have that as a standalone video. Buddy, I don't know if you'll want to plop that in here and we can toss to it so you can take a look, but it's been up for about a month. So just we'll link to it. You can go find it. So before we let you go, buddy, I have to tell you, I have someone here who wants to say hi.
Okay, who?
My little studio mascot. Now,
why? Oh, okay, back to Billy. The album, it's called The Rest of Mine, and it's out July 22nd. And you're going to have to pick that up. It's going to be available on CD and digitally. And, you know, the video, The Rest of Mine, features Paul Overstreet as well. That's out, as you heard Billy say. And yeah, the 90s country thing, that's cool. That's here. This is the Music Universe podcast.
Oh, no, wait. I did have a reason for bringing up Barney.
I thought you were being just crazy, like usual.
No, I have a reason.
Why is Barney in here?
So, as most of you know, I work with Kerry Stinson, who was inside the suit of this little purple dinosaur for about 22 years. And I do his podcast, Purple Roads. We co-host a special features extras show for his Patreon. And he was telling me the other day that someone we interviewed, speaking of Nashville and all that stuff, somebody we interviewed the other day, or the other month, you and I, Jenna Paulette, on the CMT red carpet. Remember, she had the brown jacket with the cowboy hat.
Very Yellowstone-ish.
She has been a family friend to the Stinsons for many, many years, and Carrie knows and loves her parents. And so I wanted to say, you know, it's kind of a neat little full circle moment, but this guy lives in the studio, off camera, of course, usually. But I wanted to bring that up and mention that because it's so neat how everything can kind of tie together on the various things both you and I do separate of the music universe. So I wanted to mention that.
Well, I don't do anything separate of the music universe.
Well, our personal lives. It feels like it. It feels like I don't do anything separate of the music universe too.
Well, hey, you bring all this stuff on yourself. You enjoy.
I do. I do. I brought the Nashville trip onto myself. My gosh, in Nashville, it was so much fun. But at the end of the day, I'd get back to my hotel and my undershirt and I wore these polos every day. I had 5 with me. Don't think I was wearing the same shirt. I had 5 with me to wear every day. And by the end of each day, they were just soaked through. And in fact, I took out for the laundry and washed the undershirts, and one was just even more wet than when I took it off. Like everything had pulled together. It was long, hot, sweaty, blood, sweat, the epitome of blood, sweat, and tears. But we had a lot of fun. So, like I said, our Opry Loves the 90s featurette is little, probably 2-minute video is there in the
circling social media as well. So
and circling social media. So now you can end this episode. I'm sorry I couldn't join Billy Dean with you, but it seems like you guys had a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, sometimes the best interviews are just one-on-one, right?
Yep. I know that was a dig, but we both do one-on-one interviews. There's a pretty big star that I almost interviewed one-on-one myself, and will probably only do one-on-one because of who he is, and you'll see that eventually.
We're not there yet, so we're hoping to tandem double team it, but it may be better one-on-one.
I don't know, Barney. What do you think? Do you think I should just interview the guest we're teasing one-on-one?
Are you going to end this or not?
For the Music Universe podcast, he's Barney. I'm Matt.
And Dumb Buddy. Thanks for listening and watching, and be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and share button. You can stop Matt. And follow us at themusicuniverse.com and obviously tmupod.com for the latest episodes. Take care.
This episode of the Music Universe podcast is sponsored by Aroma Retail.
Both Buddy and I own and love their machines. I use their travel-sized diffuser, and it fills my whole apartment.
And Matt, their home unit can get your whole house smelling refreshed. And if you have a lot of pets like I do, you definitely need it. With some of your favorite fragrances from resort destinations around the world, there is definitely something for everyone.
Yeah, they have 90 fragrances available for diffusing, as room and linen sprays. I know you might like that because the dogs and cats jump on the beds. There's candles and even wax melters. Those are fun.
Head over to aromaretail.com and use code MUSICUNI10 for 10% off your order.
And that is 10 on that 10. Music UNI 10. Scent your space with Aroma Retail.